Picture an empire, born in the toughest mountain terrain you can imagine, stretching for thousands of miles. This empire, back in the 1500s, was the biggest on Earth. And here's the kicker. It was built without the wheel, without a written language as we recognize it, yet it ran with an almost terrifying efficiency. This was Tawantinsuyo, the Inca realm. And tucked high in the Andes, like a city floating in the clouds, sits a place of deep mystery and stunning beauty, Machu Picchu. For ages, we've looked at its incredible stonework and wondered, what was it really for? A forgotten city? Just a fancy royal hideaway? But what if the real story is much more complicated, much more strategic? What if this single remote citadel wasn't just a pretty piece of Inca architecture, but a vital, brilliantly clever part of their massive empire? What if Machu Picchu was a key, not just to understanding their culture, but to how they became so dominant? The Inca Empire, or Tawantinsuyo, meaning the four parts together, was an astounding achievement of human organization. From its heart in Cusco, its power spread out, covering what we now know as Peru, Bolivia, Ecuador, Colombia, Chile, and Argentina. At its peak, around 40,000 Inca officials governed an incredible 10 million people who spoke over 30 different languages across a territory larger than 3,000 square kilometers. This place was bigger than any European empire at the time. And their rise? It was unbelievably fast. Around 1100 CE, the Inca were just a small farming community in the Cusco Valley. But by 1438 CE, under the game-changing leadership of Pachacuti Inca Yupanqui, a name that means reverser of the world, the Inca launched an explosive expansion. His son, Thupa Inca Yupanqui, would stretch the empire another 4,000 kilometers. Think about that. In less than 100 years, a local power became a continental superpower. How on earth did they do it? How did they manage this sprawling, diverse empire, carved out of some of the most challenging landscapes on the planet, towering Andes mountains, dense Amazon jungles? When the Spanish arrived, they were shocked. They found an empire that ran with remarkable precision, even though it lacked things they thought were essential: a formal written script, money, or the wheel. The Incas had a sophisticated system. At the top was the Sapa Inca, the emperor, believed to be a descendant of the sun god, Inti. Beneath him, a complex network of officials, governors, and local leaders called curacas handled the day-to-day business, collecting taxes not in cash, but in labor, the mita system, and goods. They used quipas, those intricate knotted cords, to record huge amounts of information, everything from census numbers to tax debts and military plans. But records and administrators aren't enough to hold an empire of this size together, especially one built so quickly from conquered peoples. There had to be something more. There had to be ways not just to control, but to integrate, to project power, to make their rule legitimate. The question that's long puzzled historians and archaeologists is, what were the crucial elements holding this massive structure together? And what part did seemingly remote, specialized places like Machu Picchu play in this grand imperial plan? The answer, as we're about to see, is far more complex and surprising than we once thought. This wasn't just about brute force. It was about a deep understanding of power in all its forms: political, economic, religious, and symbolic. When local guides led the American explorer Hiram Bingham to Machu Picchu in 1911, the world saw a sight of almost dreamlike beauty, incredibly well preserved. For decades, the popular story painted it as the lost city of the Incas, a hidden sanctuary, maybe the last holdout against the Spanish conquistadors. Now, while it was hidden from the Spanish, they never found it. Its purpose wasn't about a desperate retreat during the conquest. Instead, archaeological evidence and new historical takes now point to a much more important, integrated role during the height of Inca power. Recent radiocarbon dating tells us Machu Picchu was likely occupied from around 1420 to 1530 CE, This lines up its construction and use squarely with the reigns of the great empire builders, Pachacutec Inca Yupanqui and his son, Tupac Inca Yupanqui. The leading theory, Pachacutec himself ordered it built, probably as a royal estate for his personal use, a place to get away, to feast, and to handle important state matters. This was meant to be a majestic place, designed to impress and serve the divine emperor. But calling it just a royal retreat seriously underestimates the Inca genius. They packed multiple functions into their major constructions. Machu Picchu wasn't simply a vacation spot. It was a statement. It was a tool. Its very existence, its design, its location, they all point to a deeper, more strategic importance. The site has around 200 carefully planned structures, split into distinct agricultural and urban areas. This shows the Incas' incredible grasp of land use and city planning. Those iconic agricultural terraces, they weren't just for looks. They were engineering wonders, creating microclimates and allowing crops like maize to grow in a tough mountain environment. The complex water systems, with stone channels and fountains, show off advanced hydraulic engineering. Archaeologists figure that while the Sapa Inca and his court would only be there for part of the year, a permanent crew of attendants, craftspeople, and maintenance staff, known as Yanaconas and Mitamais, lived at Machu Picchu. Graves have revealed these weren't just local folks. They were people brought from all over the empire, skilled artisans, including metalsmiths. This suggests Machu Picchu was a mini cosmopolitan center, a place where the empire's diverse talents gathered to serve the emperor. It reflected the empire's reach and its power to command labor and skill from across its vast lands. The whole lost city idea implies it was cut off. The reality, which research increasingly backs up, is that Machu Picchu was a buzzing working piece of the Inca state, deliberately created and strategically used. Its secrets aren't in its lostness, but in the many ways it actively fueled the empire's power. The question isn't just what it was, but how it worked for the Inca. The Inca weren't just living in the Andes. They were masters of this environment. They sculpted it, adapted to it, and used its challenging features to their advantage. And the choice of where to build Machu Picchu, that's a perfect example of their strategic brilliance. It was anything but random. Perched nearly 8,000 feet, 2,430 meters, up on a narrow ridge, with the sacred Urubamba River carving a deep canyon below, Machu Picchu's setting is breathtakingly dramatic. But it was also deeply strategic. This wasn't a place they just stumbled upon. It was chosen. First off, think about how defensible it was. Steep cliffs on almost all sides, plus controlled entry points like the main gate and the drawbridge on the Inca Trail, made it a natural fortress. While it wasn't primarily a military fort in the usual sense, its built-in security was undeniable. This seclusion offered protection and control. It meant the Sapa Inca and the elite could conduct sensitive business, perform sacred rituals, or simply escape the hustle of Cusco without worrying about surprise attacks or unwanted visitors. The very remoteness that later hid it from the Spanish was, during its heyday, a strategic plus. Then its location was key for controlling and keeping an eye on the surrounding region. Nestled right where the high Andes start to drop into the Amazon basin, Machu Picchu sat at a crucial ecological crossroads. This gave the Inca access to, and possibly control over, resources from all sorts of environments. High-altitude crops like potatoes, mid-altitude maize, and lowland goodies like coca and medicinal plants from the jungle. The agricultural terraces at Machu Picchu itself were probably places for agricultural experiments, figuring out how to adapt crops for different altitudes and conditions, a vital science for an empire stretching across such varied lands. And don't forget its connection to the Inca road system, the Capac Ñan. This incredible network, stretching over 30,000 to 60,000 kilometers, was the empire's lifeline. It allowed for communication and the movement of goods, armies, and officials. Machu Picchu was an important stop on this network, linking it to Cusco and other key centers like Choqquequirao. This road system wasn't just about logistics, it was a tool for imperial unity and control. and places like Machu Picchu served as important administrative hubs along these vital routes. Messages, carried by chasqui runners, could travel huge distances incredibly fast. Finally, you absolutely cannot overlook the spiritual power of the location. The Inca worshipped mountains, or apus, as powerful gods. Machu Picchu is surrounded by these sacred peaks, and its temples and structures are often aligned with them and with astronomical events like solstices and equinoxes. The Intihuatana stone, for instance, is thought to have been an astronomical clock or calendar. This tied the site to the cosmos and reinforced the Sapa Inca's divine connection to the natural and supernatural worlds. Choosing such a spiritually charged spot would have given immense symbolic power and legitimacy to the site and, by extension, to the emperor who ordered it built. Picking this mountain saddle was a masterstroke of strategic planning. It blended natural defenses, resource management, connectivity, and deep spiritual meaning. It wasn't just built on the landscape, it was built with it, in a conversation with the mountains and the cosmos. It's a testament to the Incas' holistic and strategic view of their world. This careful placement was a fundamental way Machu Picchu served the empire, making it a secure, resource-aware, connected, and sacred hub of Inca power. The sheer boldness of Machu Picchu's construction speaks volumes about the Inca Empire's power, not just over people, but over stone and terrain. At a time with no iron tools, no draft animals, no wheel as we think of it, the Inca raised a city so precise and grand it still baffles engineers today. And this engineering skill wasn't just about function, it was a powerful statement of imperial might, a symbol of dominance meant to awe and intimidate. Just look at the stonework. The Inca were masters of ashlar masonry, fitting massive stones together so perfectly without any mortar that you can't even slip a knife blade between them. Some of these stones are enormous, weighing many tons. They were quarried, moved, and shaped with an effort that's hard to even imagine. This technique, besides looking beautiful, also made the buildings incredibly earthquake-resistant. In a seismically active area like Peru, where cities like Lima and Cusco have been flattened by earthquakes, Machu Picchu's buildings have danced through tremors for centuries, the stone settling back into place. This wasn't luck. It was sophisticated engineering born from deep understanding and experience. More than half of Machu Picchu's foundation is actually underground, showing incredible foresight in drainage and stability. The amount of labor involved is just mind-boggling. Thousands of workers, likely brought in through the Meitei labor system from all over the empire, would have been needed. Bringing these diverse groups to this remote spot, organizing their work, feeding and housing them. That alone was a massive logistical achievement, a display of the empire's organizational muscle. The ability to command and coordinate such vast human resources for a project this big sent a clear message. The Sapa Inca's reach was limitless, his power absolute. The agricultural terraces, climbing the mountainsides like giant stairways, are another engineering marvel. They didn't just stop erosion and create farmland, they were complex systems with layers of gravel for drainage and rich topsoil, designed for optimal water management and crop cultivation. This transformation of steep slopes into productive farmland showed the Inca's ability to tame even the most unwelcoming landscapes, turning challenges into opportunities. It was a visual display of their power to bring order and productivity to the wild, a metaphor for their entire imperial project. The hydraulic engineering is just as impressive. A spring near the site supplied water, which was then channeled through a meticulously built system of stone canals and a series of 16 fountains that flowed down through the city, providing fresh water to everyone. Managing water in such a mountainous, rainy environment was critical, and the Inca absolutely mastered it. So why pour such immense resources and ingenuity into a place like Machu Picchu? Because these monumental constructions were more than just buildings, they were real, touchable proof of the Inca state's power and divine authority. For conquered peoples, or for visiting dignitaries from allied or vassal states, Machu Picchu would have been an overwhelming display of what the Inca were capable of. It projected sophistication, permanence, and an almost supernatural ability to command both human labor and the natural world. The message was crystal clear. This is the power of the Inca. This is the order we bring. This is the sophistication you are now part of, or that you shouldn't even think about challenging. In this sense, every perfectly fitted stone, every ingeniously designed terrace, every flowing fountain at Machu Picchu was an act of psychological influence, a tool for cementing control and reinforcing the imperial hierarchy. It fueled the empire by solidifying its image as an invincible and divinely chosen power. While we often praise its spiritual vibe and architectural beauty, Machu Picchu was also a vital political tool, a sophisticated hub in the Inca's vast network of administration and control. Its role as a royal estate was deeply tied to the exercise of political power. It allowed the Sapa Inca to govern, to display his authority, and to integrate the diverse territories under his rule. Archaeologists like Richard Berger and Lucy Salazar argue that Machu Picchu served as a royal retreat where the emperor could engage in activities linked to his divine kingship. This included feasting, hunting, and performing rituals. These weren't just fun and games. They were critical political performances. Hosting feasts for local lords and allied leaders at such an impressive estate was a way to build alliances, show generosity, a key Inca leadership quality, and subtly reinforce who was in charge. The emperor and his entourage would only live there for part of the year, but the fact that it was maintained by a permanent staff drawn from across the empire highlighted its ongoing importance. The presence of high-status residential buildings, clearly separate from areas for attendants and staff, reflects the strict social structure of the Inca Empire, with the emperor at the very top. The emperor's own compound, positioned to show his unique status, was right next to key religious and observational structures, emphasizing how closely political and religious authority were linked. Machu Picchu's connection to the Chapak Ñan, the imperial road system, was crucial to its political role. This network was the backbone of Inca administration. It allowed for the quick movement of information, officials, and resources. As a key administrative hub on this network, Machu Picchu helped with communication and control over a strategic corridor. Orders from Cusco, or from the Sapa Inca while he was there, could be efficiently passed on. Tribute and goods could be managed. The roads allowed the top leaders to access sacred spaces like Machu Picchu for rituals essential to the state's ideology. What's more, setting up royal estates like Machu Picchu in newly conquered or strategically important regions was a deliberate Inca strategy for asserting their presence and authority. By periodically living in these estates, the Sapa Inca and his court made imperial power visible and real to local populations. It showed that these territories weren't distant, forgotten outliers, but integral parts of the empire, directly connected to the divine ruler. This practice helped to weave diverse clans and ethnic groups into the overarching structure of Tawantinsuyu. The population of Machu Picchu itself seems to have been a melting pot of the empire, with individuals from different ethnic groups and regions brought together to serve the emperor. This diversity within the estate mirrored the diversity of the empire at large and showcased the Inca's ability to mobilize and organize people from across their vast domain. The power to command specialized labor, like metalsmiths from distant provinces, and bring them to this elite center was a clear display of imperial strength. Recent research even suggests that the people buried at Machu Picchu were largely Yanaconas, retainers, who came from diverse, often distant parts of the empire, rather than being locals. This highlights Machu Picchu's role as a center that drew people from all over Tawantinsuyu, directly serving the Inca elite and imperial projects. These individuals, separated from their ancestral lands, would likely have had a stronger loyalty to the Inca state that provided for them. Machu Picchu wasn't some isolated political island. It was a dynamic center where the Sapa Inca could perform his royal duties, project his power, manage regional affairs, and strengthen the bonds of empire. It was a place where the political, symbolic, and administrative threads of the Inca state came together, making it a vital instrument in the governance and cohesion of their colossal realm. The Inca Empire was a rich tapestry, woven from countless cultures, languages, and local traditions. Holding such a diverse entity together took more than just military muscle and efficient administration. It needed a powerful, unifying cultural and religious ideology. And sites like Machu Picchu were key to spreading and reinforcing this imperial story. Machu Picchu was, through and through, a sacred and ceremonial center. Its very architecture and alignment speak to a deep spiritual connection with the landscape and the cosmos. Numerous structures within the complex are identified as temples and shrines, like the Temple of the Sun, the Temple of the Three Windows, and the Principal Temple. These weren't just private chapels for the emperor. They were stages for state-sponsored religious ceremonies that legitimized Inca rule and helped integrate the belief systems of conquered peoples. The Inca state religion focused on the worship of Inti, the sun god, from whom the Sapa Inca claimed descent, was a powerful unifying force. By establishing major ceremonial centers like Machu Picchu, clearly dedicated to these state deities and astronomical observations, the Inca projected their religious authority across the empire. The Intihuatana stone, often seen as a device for tracking solar movements, highlights the importance of sun worship and calendrical rituals. These would have been crucial for agricultural cycles and therefore the well-being of the empire. The presence of sacred features, carefully integrated into natural rock formations, further boosted its spiritual power. These sites also served as pilgrimage destinations, though perhaps for a select elite or for specific ceremonial purposes. The journey to a sacred place like Machu Picchu, often along the spiritually charged Inca roads, would have been a powerful experience, reinforcing devotion and a sense of shared Inca identity. Stones from sacred quarries near Cusco were even used in parts of the road system, infusing the pathways themselves with divine meaning and legitimizing the emperor's rule. Also, Inca rulers, including Pachacuti, often commissioned estates like Machu Picchu to commemorate military victories and to establish a personal, dynastic claim to the land. These estates became symbols of the emperor's power and legacy, places where his lineage would be honored even after his death. This practice linked personal glory with imperial expansion and religious approval. The population at Machu Picchu, made up of individuals from various ethnic backgrounds, all serving the emperor, also played a part in cultural integration. While they kept some of their own customs, their collective service to the Inca state in such a potent symbolic location would have fostered a degree of shared experience and, perhaps, a broader imperial identity. It was a miniature version of the empire's diverse peoples, brought together under the unifying banner of the Inca. The emperor and his court periodically residing at these royal estates, performing rituals and engaging with local elites, was a crucial strategy for cultural assimilation. It demonstrated the Sapa Inca's divine authority and connected local sacred landscapes, the Apus or mountain deities, to the broader state religion. This helped weave local belief systems into the larger imperial spiritual framework, rather than just stamping them out. So Machu Picchu wasn't just a passive monument. It was an active player in the cultural and religious life of the empire. It was a place where the Sapa Inca's divine authority was performed and reinforced, where the cosmos was engaged, and where the diverse peoples of Tawantinsuyu could be brought into the fold of a shared imperial culture, supported by Inca religious beliefs and practices. This cultural and religious magnetism was a powerful, less obvious, but equally vital way Machu Picchu fueled the strength and unity of the empire. While Machu Picchu often gets praise for its spiritual and royal roles, its part in the Inca economy, though maybe indirect, was also pretty important. The Inca Empire's economy ran on agriculture and the smart management of resources and labor, and places like Machu Picchu were definitely plugged into this system in several key ways. The most obvious aspect is those extensive agricultural terraces. These engineered marvels not only stopped soil erosion on the steep slopes, but also created microclimates perfect for growing a variety of crops, especially maize. Maize was a super important crop for the Inca, used in ceremonies and for making chicha, maize beer, a staple at social and religious events. While the food grown on Machu Picchu's terraces alone wouldn't have fed the whole empire, it would have taken care of the emperor and his crew during their stays, and maybe even produced extra for ceremonies or to support the permanent staff. Beyond just growing food, some theories suggest Machu Picchu was a hub for agricultural experimentation. Its location, right at the edge of different ecological zones, from the high Andes to the Amazonian foothills, made it an ideal lab for trying out various crops at different altitudes and conditions. For an empire that stretched across such diverse lands, being able to maximize food production everywhere was critical. Knowledge gained here could have been spread throughout the empire, boosting overall productivity. Controlling resources from these varied ecological zones was a big part of Inca economic strategy. Machu Picchu's strategic spot likely helped with managing and controlling tribute from nearby regions. This could include valuable products from the lower, warmer valleys, like coca leaves, highly valued for ritual and medicinal use, fruits, and possibly even gold or silver from mines in the wider Urubamba Valley region, which Pachacuti was keen on. The Inca state meticulously managed the flow of goods, and royal estates could have acted as collection or processing points for regional produce and tribute. The labor poured into Machu Picchu itself was a form of economic output. The mita system, which required citizens to chip in labor for state projects, was the backbone of the Inca economy. Building and maintaining a site as elaborate as Machu Picchu was a massive mobilization of this labor, basically turning raw manpower into monumental infrastructure, symbols of power, and functional estates. This infrastructure, in turn, supported the administrative, political, and religious activities that kept the empire ticking. Plus, the presence of skilled craftspeople, like metalsmiths, at Machu Picchu, suggests it was also a center for producing high-status goods. Excavations have turned up evidence of metalworking, including objects made from tin bronze and even ceremonial knives of bismuth bronze, showing off advanced metallurgical knowledge. These luxury items would have been used by the elite in ceremonies or as diplomatic gifts, all part of the complex web of give and take and status display that defined the Inca political economy. So, while it wasn't a bustling marketplace like we think of today, the Inca economy largely worked without money, relying on tribute, redistribution, and reciprocity. Machu Picchu definitely functioned as a center of production, resource management, and the concentration of specialized labor. It used resources, sure, but it also helped to manage and control them, to experiment with their production, and to turn them into the goods and symbols that sustained the empire's elite and its overarching ideology. Its economic contribution was part of its all-around service to the Inca state, making sure the emperor and the core functions of the empire were well looked after. So how did Machu Picchu really fuel the Inca's colossal empire? The answer, as we've been exploring, isn't one simple thing. It's a complex web of interconnected strategies, some subtle, some obvious, all remarkably clever. The shocking part isn't some hidden treasure or lost technology, but the sheer sophistication and the many-layered way this single site was used to project and maintain imperial power. It wasn't just a royal retreat. It was a dynamic tool of leadership. First, there was the strategy of symbolic domination through engineering. The Inca didn't just build, they broadcast their power in stone. Machu Picchu's architectural perfection, its defiance of a harsh landscape, its earthquake-proof designs, these weren't just practical. They were a constant, visible reminder to anyone who saw or even heard of it. The Inca were masters of the physical world, capable of imposing order on chaos, their abilities almost supernatural. This psychological impact, inspiring awe and discouraging rebellion, was a powerful, quiet fuel for imperial stability. The very act of building it, using labor from across the empire, showed the Sapa Inca's reach and organizational skill. Second, the strategy of political centralization and elite control in a sacred landscape. Machu Picchu was deliberately placed in a spot filled with deep spiritual meaning, surrounded by sacred apus, mountains. By building his estate here, Pachacuti and his successors didn't just get a nice view. They tapped into the existing sacredness of the landscape, weaving their imperial authority together with the divine. It became a place where political power was performed and made holy. Hosting feasts, conducting rituals, and managing affairs from this mountain citadel reinforced the Sapa Inca's unique status as a divine ruler and a key link between the earthly and celestial worlds. This was crucial for making their rule legitimate over diverse conquered peoples. Third, the strategy of logistical and administrative control via a strategic nexus. Far from being isolated, Machu Picchu was a vital hub on the Capac Ñan. Its position made it easier to administer a key region, control trade routes between the highlands and the jungle, and ensure the rapid communication essential for managing a sprawling empire. It served as a regional command center, ensuring imperial decrees were followed and resources from surrounding areas flowed towards the state. The roads themselves were tools of control and integration, and Machu Picchu sat right on these imperial arteries. Fourth, the strategy of cultural integration and imperial identity forging. The diverse population of retainers and craftspeople at Machu Picchu, drawn from various corners of Tawantinsuyu, turned the estate into a mini version of the empire itself. Here, under the direct service of the emperor, a shared imperial purpose could be built. Religious ceremonies performed at its potent shrines reinforced the state cult of Inti, the sun god, helping to layer a common imperial religious identity onto local beliefs. It was a place where the empire's cultural gravity could pull diverse elements into a more unified whole. Fifth, the strategy of economic exploitation and resource management. The agricultural terraces weren't just for food, they were a display of Inca ingenuity in maximizing productivity in tough environments. Its location likely helped control and collect valuable resources from different ecological zones, crucial for the state's wealth and for producing ritually important goods like maize and coca. It was a center for managing and showcasing the empire's ability to provide and sustain. The true genius, the shocking strategy, is how these elements weren't separate but deeply intertwined. Machu Picchu wasn't one thing. It was many things at once: a fortress, a sanctuary, a palace, an observatory, an administrative hub, a symbol of power, a center of cultural fusion, and an economic asset. Its power came from this synergy. It fueled the empire by making rule, legitimate, connecting the emperor to the divine and the sacred landscape, projecting power, showing off unparalleled engineering and organizational might, easing administration, acting as a control point for a strategic region and communication network, integrating peoples, bringing diverse groups together in service of the state and its ideology, managing resources, overseeing the flow of goods and demonstrating agricultural mastery. It was a meticulously designed piece of the imperial machine, operating on multiple levels at the same time, contributing to the stability, expansion, and longevity of the largest empire the Americas had ever seen. The Incas didn't just build a city in the clouds. They engineered a sophisticated instrument of imperial power, one whose true, multifaceted brilliance we're still uncovering. The story of Machu Picchu and the Inca Empire is an incredible look at human ingenuity and ambition. There are still so many secrets held within these stones, so many questions just waiting for answers. If this journey into the strategies of a colossal empire has grabbed you, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because we're always exploring the amazing mysteries of the past. And let us know in the comments, what part of Inca innovation or Machu Picchu's power do you find most astounding? Machu Picchu was abandoned by the Inca in the 1530s, likely as the empire crumbled under internal conflicts and the devastating Spanish conquest. Its remote location, which had once been a strategic plus, now allowed it to slip from the conqueror's sight, preserving it in a remarkable state for centuries. While other Inca sites were looted or built over, Machu Picchu remained a silent witness to a world that had vanished. Today, it stands as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, one of the new 7 wonders of the world, drawing millions who marvel at its beauty and the sheer skill of its creators. But as we've explored, it's so much more than just a stunning ruin. It was a vibrant, living part of a sophisticated imperial machine. It was a place of power, of strategy, of spiritual depth, and of incredible human effort. The genius of Machu Picchu was its multifaceted role. It wasn't just a fortress, or just a temple, or just a palace. It was all of these, expertly woven together to serve the ambitions of the Inca state. It fueled their colossal empire by projecting undeniable power, by centralizing control in a sacred and strategic location, by fostering a unifying cultural and religious identity, and by efficiently managing resources and labor. It was a miniature version of the empire itself, diverse, organized, and breathtakingly ambitious. The stones of Machu Picchu still resonate with the echoes of that power. They tell a story of a civilization that, for a brilliant moment in history, mastered the mountains and forged an empire unlike any other. And as we continue to study it, to listen to its silent narratives, Machu Picchu offers us not just a glimpse into the past, but a powerful reminder of the complex and often surprising ways that human societies build, maintain, and express their power. The city in the clouds was indeed a key to an empire's incredible reign.